What's going on, guys? Fun with Knives back again, and it is review time. The knife that you're looking at is the Zero Tolerance 0220 or 0220, and it is the pride of my collection. It is by far my favorite knife and by far my most carried knife since I've had it. And I've been really excited to do this review because I think this knife has flown under the radar a little bit. I think it deserves a little bit more exposure, and I hope some of you guys love it as much as I do. So I'll give you guys the specs and let's get into it. We got my House Targaryen patch here, and we have a 3.5 inch blade. Your handle length is 4 7/8 inches, making your overall length 8 3/8 inches. So not a huge knife, but I think a bigger EDC knife would be a good size range for this one. Your blade stock on this model is 0.16 inches. So a nice beefy blade from ZT, and then your handle thickness is right at 0.51, so around average at 1/2 inch, as Birdshot 4 would say, which I agree with. And then one specification that a lot of people aren't stoked about is the weight. This thing weighs 6.24 ounces, which is a little heavy. It is, there's no doubt about that, and some people kind of shy away from this knife, and I completely understand that. But to me, the design, the aesthetics, the functionality behind this thing, I really don't care. I mean, this thing could weigh twice as much and I would still carry it and I would still love it. But that 6 ounces, I mean, you do feel that in pocket. It does take up a little bit of real estate because it is a larger knife, but you will feel that weight. But this thing has so much other aspects going for it that, like I said, it really doesn't matter to me. Focusing in on the blade here, you see we have a drop point with a slight recurve. You guys know I'm all about the drop points. That recurve is just slight enough that I think it won't pose a problem for sharpening, but it does aid a little bit in slicing, and I think it looks cool. It's a little bit curvy, and it's a little bit more aesthetically pleasing than your average drop point. You can see here, this side of the blade is sterile. You got all your markings here, which we'll talk about. But a heavy stone wash all over this thing. It's really going to hide your scratches and your wear. And the blade steel on this is Crucible's S35VN. Now, I'm no metallurgy expert and I won't pretend to be, but what I hear is that S35VN was developed as a follow-up to S30V. And I'm sure you guys know all about S30V. It's kind of legendary in the knife world, and it's still a great steel, but S35VN's a little bit better. And me being a budget knife enthusiast, S35VN holds an edge for a very long time. I'm gonna have no problems with corrosion, and it's an all-around just good super steel. It's a powdered steel. It's coming out of Crucible particle powder metallurgy, and it's phenomenal. It's being used all over the place. Markings on this side, you have 0220, the model, Kai USA, and then your blade steel serial number. And this knife is designed by Jens Onzo. Now, he's a pretty popular name in the knife world, and I've seen lots of things that he's designed coming out of Spyderco, Boker, ZT now, and they've all been interesting. And this is my very first Onzo design, and it's actually my only Onzo design, and I can see why he's so popular. The ergonomics on this knife are just stellar. We'll talk about him. The design and the overall design, the look of the knife is just superb, and the execution coming out of ZT is, of course, amazing. So that collaborative effort really resulted in an awesome knife, and I cannot wait to get my hands on more Onzo designs. So a lot of one of the things people really want to see is the action on this thing, which might be the best aspect about this knife. It is awesome. Great action on this knife. The flipping action is just the best that I've ever had. And I do have a ZT 0456. I'll do a comparison video between those two later. But a lot of people consider the 0456 to be an amazing flipper, and it is. But to me, this 0220 is a little bit better. The closing action is just phenomenal. You can kind of do the light switch with this flipper, or you can kind of push button it. But the sound is great. The detent is perfect. You can hear that close. Here's a little close-up of your flipper here. Nice jimping on the top. Kind of a weird shape, but it just works. You can hit it and it always opens. It's riding on KVT ball bearing system. Kershaw velocity technology. I'm sure you guys know all about that as well. Your blade centering, mine is near perfect. Now, it was dead center when I got it, and you can see it's moved over, you know, 0.5 millimeter, if that. It's barely moved, and this thing's seen a lot of use, maybe even a little bit of abuse. Just another testament to zero tolerance's quality control. All USA made everything. I love to hear that. And here's your lockup. This is a titanium frame lock with a steel lock bar insert, so you're getting steel on steel contact. You can kind of see that in there, but you have an early lockup. I mean, we're talking 30% or so, and as you would expect coming out of ZT, there's no blade play whatsoever. I mean, this thing is locked up like a tank, and it should be. At this price range, at what ZT does, and especially at this weight, this thing should be a tank, and I think it is. That being said, let's move on to the handle. These are titanium, and they are bead blasted. One thing that I wasn't sure I was going to like is the handle scales are very plain. You can see that they're just flat. There's no 3D contouring to them. There's no really milling to it at all. It's just a slab of titanium, and then they've nicely chamfered off the edges. You can see there. Nice and rounded, so it's not going to, you know, have hot spots all over because you got 90-degree angles on your handle scales. But I was worried it would feel boxy, and it doesn't. And the reason it doesn't is because Jens Onzo did such a phenomenal design with the ergonomics. This thing's got kind of an odd shape. We have an angled portion here, a flat portion here, and then an angled portion here. And it just works. This tapers down, not to a point, but to a slimmer area. You got a nice finger choil here. Your middle and your ring finger fall in, and then your pinky kind of floats on its own little designated area. And I was a little bit worried about that, but this handle is almost 5 inches, so there's plenty to hold on to. This knife feels awesome when you're in gloves, and if you flip it around and want to do a reverse grip, it's even more comfortable. So is this Manix 2 ergonomics? No. Is it close? Absolutely. This thing is just superb in the ergonomic category. This was kind of controversial when this one came out, this blue ZT badge. Do I have a strong preference on it? Not really. I like the color. I like where it's located on the knife. I don't think it draws away from the overall design, but the execution is a little bit funky to me. You can see, kind of cool looking, but on the edges, it looks like it was poorly cut. It looks like it's been hastily glued on there. I like having ZT on it, but I don't know if I'm all for it. Now, one thing I do really like is this pop of color in your aluminum backspacer. This is bright orange. This is mostly closed construction. You can see there that this backspacer runs almost half the length of the knife. And then you have your integral lanyard slot right there. I don't know if I'll throw a lanyard on this one or not, but I used to hate the color orange, and that was really holding me back from buying this knife at first. I was just like, they had to choose orange for this one, and since I got it, I've loved orange. I like this knife that much that it's really altering another aspect of my life. And I mentioned in my unboxing that this knife looks something like what the Martian would carry. If you guys have seen that movie, he's got an orange spacesuit when he's on Mars. It's all orange, and it's got, you know, metallic-y silver accents to it and blue in it. And to me, this looks like the perfect complement to that. You got titanium, you got orange aluminum, you got some blue in there, and it just matches. And you guys know I'm huge into futuristic knives, and I definitely think this is that. Is it as futuristic maybe as that ZT-0456? Probably not. This one's got a little bit more curve to it, a little bit more ergonomic shaped handle, but it's still got that futuristic theme, and I love that. Your hardware, though, is going to be black. You got 2 body screws holding this thing together, and then you've got your kind of stylized spoke looking pivot. These are coated, I'm sure, in PVD or DLC or something like that, just the same as this clip here. See ZT on the clip, and it's my favorite clip, guys. It really is. Super simple design. It's a loop over, carries very deep for such a large knife, and it is really easy to extract out of your pocket, throw back in there, and it just disappears when you're carrying it. You really don't even notice it. This knife's not super thick in this dimension, and when it's in your pocket, it feels like a smaller knife despite the weight. So all in all, guys, do I like this knife? Absolutely. Like I said, it's my favorite knife. Now, do I recommend it? This thing is going to cost you $228 wherever you're going to find it. I can't really tell you if it's worth it to you. I mean, I don't know what your money situation is, your knife situation, what kind of aspects you like in a knife, but what I can tell you is this knife gets just about everything right in my category. It's got a very good steel, but one that I can still sharpen and still maintain. I like stonewashed blades a lot. It's elegant, yet simple with its sterile blade, stonewash. It doesn't have too much going on in the handle. It's got my favorite pocket clip. It's got a nice titanium frame lock. The ergonomics are awesome. It's a larger knife, but it's not huge. I think the versatility of this knife, or the functionality of this blade, really outweighs the weight. Like I said, I mean, this thing could weigh 10 ounces and I would still love it. The lock bar tension is perfect. The D10 is perfect. It's so fun to play with and use. You can see there's a good lock bar cutout for you to access that. So yes, I do recommend this. If you're in a market in this sort of price range of knife, ZT is definitely going to come up. You're in the low 200s. I think zero tolerance kind of runs the game there. I mean, newcomers, Kaiser, Wee knives and stuff like that make very good products, but ZT is all USA made. They got great collaborative efforts like this one, and I really didn't think I was going to like this knife this much. I mean, I've been carrying this knife so much that I have to force myself not to grab it in the morning. That was a bad actuation on my part. But yes, ZT 0220, love it. I hope you guys check it out. If you can, get into a Blade HQ or Knife Center or somewhere that'll let you handle it and see if you like it, because I highly recommend it. In fact, I recommend this knife more than any other I've reviewed on the channel. The Manix 2 comes close, the Knockout, I mean, all those staples in the EDC knife community. But like I said, I think this one's been overlooked a little bit, and I know this video's ran a little bit long. There's a lot to talk about when it comes to knives in this price category, but thanks for sticking with it, guys. And of course, thanks for watching. And remember, have fun with your knives.